What's going on, guys? Will with Orion Training Group, and tonight we're going to dive in a little bit on my rifle setup, the what, the why, the how, and what it looks like big picture. So let's start right here. The system itself actually just recently came out. We're really excited about it. This is a kind of a signature rifle. It is the 12.7 IC-A5 at its base, but it is the IC-A5 Orion Training Group Will Mod. So it's a really cool thing. A couple of key details that are our preference that comes with them right out of the box. We're really excited about. It is their piston system, which in my mind is superior to a lot because of its gas mitigation. Its recoil impulse is nearly on the verge of being a squib feeling round. There's nothing to it. Very robust. They're pretty stinking durable. We haven't found any problems with them. They just did the new, for the 12.7s, the rifle fluted external, so it alleviates some of that weight in the front, and we're very happy. Obviously the tolerances are great, but let's go ahead and not be distracted like I want to be. We're going to start at the very top and work our way down. Bear with me, I'm not the flannel lord, so my detail may be lapsed at times. So the suppressor that stays on 100% of the time, I take it off for service, but outside of that, it stays on for work. It is a Surefire RC2 that has been rattle canned for a very specific purpose, and typically there is a burn-proof gear, burn-proof cover on it, but I have recently donated mine to somebody that needed it more than I did. Great guy, absolute homie. He also is who manufactures my sling, which we'll get to in a minute. But anyway, burn-proof gear. If you have a suppressor, use it for work or recreation, please do yourself and your leg a favor. Put a cover on it, and burn-proof is phenomenal at that. This weird device at the top, kind of phallic shaped, is a XS company, and it is a window or a glass pike. It serves one purpose, and it is to poke holes in glass and get it out of the way. I stole this from a neighboring agency, and they're probably not going to give it back, but I do love you. Coming down, it is just a 3-prong flash hider under there. I'm too lazy to take this off and show you, but maybe we'll show a picture of one on the side, and then we can go back to it because I'm, again, lazy. On the opposite side is LWRC's proprietary offset mount that hosts a mod light, OKW, and a Surefire tail cap that runs to my Unity hot button that runs my white light, and it is a dedicated button. It is offset and has a anti-ND cover on it that protects from any gloves or any random motion that my hand might do that prevents a negligent discharge of white light, which nobody likes, and it's really embarrassing, so we try to avoid it. At the top is an L3 NGAL, which stands for Next Generation Aiming Laser. In the industry, we love our acronyms, and we love somehow virtue signaling them really tight, not telling anybody. They're pretty silly. But anyway, NGAL is Next Generation Aiming Laser. That's all. It's just a V-cell, really light. A lot of guys on Instagram call it the forbidden chocolate bar. But anyway, on the side is the heat shrouds that LWRC makes for their systems. Very low profile, but they serve the exact purpose. I'm not a vertical grip kind of guy. They're great, but for me, I prefer just kind of a dimple and indexing point for my hand to kind of grab onto and host. If you look at the hot button, I run my thumb about right here or just on the back side of it like this. That's just my index point on a 12.7, which is my preferred platform. I like that setup. It's a comfortable grip, and for any weird reason in training or last ditch effort, not for Instagram hype, I can use left and right forward controls, and it's the same position, same indexing point, and same memory point. So again, the consistency in all three photonic barriers, white light, intermediate light, low light, no light, or night vision, I have the access and same memory across the board. Just behind it, temporarily, is the factory NGAL dual switch, one being IR fire controls for those settings, and the rear button in the back is a strict bypass that goes no matter what setting I have it set to. If it's IR spectrum, which typically our eyes are not going to see that anyway, if I need to bypass that with white light, I can simply press this button, and it, no matter what setting it's on, bypasses and goes to visible spectrum, which is a nice feature. I really do like it. but I am switching to the Unity taps that is dedicated to the INGAL, so that when I fire white light, when I need to do a what's called white light bypass under nods, or just deploy the white light, I have a laser indexing point as well, which is a reinforcement, a deterrent, and also another aid for aiming if I'm off axis or have something else going on. Then I need to just put that pretty little dot there and let what happens happen. Jumping back up on my settings for the piston, these are two position. Again, the LWRC IC series is piston driven and it's adjustable. Setting 1 is unsuppressed, which regulates the bolt carrier group perfectly. Again, they are outstanding. We love them to death, not just because of a partnership, but because we believe in them. And I've run them and purchased them years before and ran them years before and trusted my life with them before I ever partnered with them. And shout out to the one person that we deal with there. She's the patron saint of piston, and that's what she will be forever to us. We'll adore her. Anyway, my setting is on SUP, which is a pretty little acronym, again, shocker, on my piston setting back here for suppressed, which again creates what we call God mode, and you don't feel the impulse because men run these. So we're gonna go ahead and move across here. Before we go to the optic setup, because that may take the most time, we're gonna talk about the sling. So this is that partnership I mentioned earlier with Burn Proof Gear. Again, dear friend, trusted company, was purchasing them before we ever had a relationship and a partnership. He manufactures my slings. This is the Burn Proof Gear / style weapon system sling. Very strong, very quiet, light, stays out of the way. I'm not a fan of pads too much, so it's a very slick sling, but it's also load bearing and it stays out of the way. Like I said, we work a lot of times out of a vehicle, and I want to be able to, when I have to deploy that gun, work a problem, and when I have the time and distance that allows me to manage or swim in and out of my sling, I'll deploy that. And it's a really easy step. So we're working the problem. I now have time and distance or whatever. I have a gap that allows me to divert my attention to management. I pull the tab, it drops out of the G hook, and I can swim into the sling and get back into it. And now the gun is married to me. I'm now responsible for it even more. The way I accomplish that, on the very back is a modified G hook that sits in this position facing downward. You just cut it and file it. That's all you got to do. And it retains the sling for you. My positioning is, again, a QD attachment that's proprietary to LWRC. I place it right here, which is a 1-inch QD. And then on the opposite side, so that I can manage my sling without having any binding around my neck, it's on the opposing side that I'm running it on. Another QD on the back of LWRC's buttstock. Okay, so we're gonna take a couple minutes and we're gonna talk about the optic setup and why it looks the way it does. One, the optic, my favorite red dot, again, it's a preference. I prefer the EOTechs. On this particular rifle, I have the 8.5, the 10.5, a couple other calibers in the 10.5, and two 12.7s. One being the original 12.7 that I've run for quite a while, and the direct clone of that, which is the OTG Wilmod edition, which is a direct replica in our specific peanut butter brown color. This optic is the EXPS3-2, which has, we're out here teaching right now a CQB class, and this was propped up on a wall and someone decided to shoot it. So you have blue paint on it, but I don't care. EXP-3-2, meaning there's two dots. There's the typical 50/200, 0, and just below that is the 500-yard reference. So pretty quickly, if the ability is needed on the capability side, meaning I have the time and opportunity to place that shot with proper ID at 500, which may be rare for our work, I can place that shot pretty quickly. Just behind that is a flip to center, which if you aren't running this yet, you should be. It's phenomenal because it stays out of the way. It doesn't flip to the side and cause a snag hazard. This is the Unity Tactical Flip to Center EOTech Magnifier Riser. They probably have a shorter acronym for it. I don't know it, not my world. So anyway, it flips to center and it gives me the exact rise I need for the chin weld I like. And I have 1 power per 100 for the average range of this gun. It's far more capable than we typically run it, but that's work. It is on a Overbore Systems, I believe this is the Kinu riser, and I chose this exact one on purpose because I wanted to accommodate not just the EOTech. If you notice the reference point here, we have the exact tolerance and the spacing I need for the proper eye relief, the passive aiming, and then on this device up here, which is a Wilcox flip to side for dovetail, I put a thermal on there. Okay, and that is not on the gun all the time, but for a small percentage of the time where under nods or in the daytime, someone happens to go into brush or deeper cover, or we're looking for someone in a crowd or other methods, I can find that signature, I can locate it, and then triangulate the element to that in specific ways that we don't have to go into in this video. But for this instance right here, the particular one we're dealing with right now is the iRay Rico 2 or 2.3, whichever one the new one is, that's what this is, with the dovetail. Slight modification, we may go into that another day, but it slides directly into the Wilcox, it locks in, and I have complete passive aiming with thermal when I need it, and then also, once it's on, I can flip it to the side, and it's no longer in the way of my original task. So I can, on demand, use thermal, day or night, white light spectrum, daytime, IR spectrum under nods, and then also passively aim through my optic using the magnifier for thermal. That is why it is set up this way. This covers all the barriers and any spectrum we may fall into quickly. So it may add a little bit of weight for that small percentage of time, but again, we're men. The weight isn't really the factor for us, it's what we need out of the system. So then you just QD, grab the button, press it, and pull it. And I usually throw it in a pouch on my carrier, and we're done. And we're back to that setup. There's not much else to it outside of the awesome features that comes with LWRC. Everything's ambi, everything's top quality. I love them to death. And we're just thrilled with this rifle, with their performance, accuracy, everything. If you need more details on this and when they're gonna be releasing more of them, again, we're gonna probably drop a link in here and you can get some more info on it. But I absolutely love this rifle. 12.7 is my favorite. It performs every task I may fall into, be that special purpose with a LPVO and a side-mounted dot, or the everyday use, which is just a red dot, and I can summon the 3-power or the thermal and cover it all. Again, we can deep dive the setup in another video, but that pretty much covers everything. And again, for accountability for myself and accountability for my equipment, if you don't do this, please take the time to do it. Take a paint pen and witness mark anything that tightens that is relevant, as in hosting a vital device. Witness mark it. Witness mark your zeros every time. Confirm it. Because we have had numerous times people on a range tinker, mess with stuff, borrow stuff, and they just can't help themselves. They want to spin a dial. They want to move something, want to adjust something because it's them, not me. I can quickly look at it, or a piece of kit. Let's just not blame a person. Let's blame me with my kit touching it. Something may get in there and move it. Well, I can quickly reference before it's time for work. I can look down and say, am I accountable to my equipment? Is my equipment accountable to me? Adjust everything, make sure nothing has come loose, because it does happen. Make my adjustments before I get to the field, because we're supposed to be professional end users and represent the people. Let's do it effectively, do it correctly, the first time. So anyway, that covers it all. I love it. Here it is, bask in its glory. But no matter what you have, no matter what your gun is, what your setup is, what your preference is, because we're all end users in our own way, we all have the way we've done it, the way we like to do it. But most importantly, you can have the best gun in the world, all the best equipment, accessories, everything that Instagram tells you feel you need to have, or some guy with a lot more followers than all of us says, you've got to have this thing, or you're not it. If you don't know how to run this effectively and know the why behind every single piece of your equipment, seek out professional training. Obviously, there's a bias for me because I work with great guys at Orion Training Group and I know what we put out. So yes, look up at our training schedule and see what's available for you. But if there's a limitation to geographical stuff, timing stuff, there's great reputable people. Look for them, you'll find them. But no matter what the sword is, it always comes back to the end user. Know how to, on demand, deliver this system in whatever environment you have before you worry about the small accessories. deliver the system, add the accessories when it matters. Okay, so really quickly, in case we didn't cover it earlier, for zeros on my system, I run a 100-yard zero on the EOTech because of the riser. There's a little bit more math into that. Also, I run a 100-yard converging zero for the laser. For the reasons why behind that, if you want to know how and why that matters, look into our classes with Orion Training Group, our night vision pillars, look at the dates, look at the locations, and also our night vision CQB for the in-depth, kind of a deep dive on the why behind that application and see if it applies to you for your particular type of work. But yeah, so 100-yard zero, 100-yard converging, and that matters.